Welcome back to the Limitless Business Owners Podcast. This is episode 4, and we are really, really excited for this one because it's actually our first guest interview. My name's Andrew George. I'm here with my co-host, Dan Fisher, and our special guest, Jen Wellers. I want to remind you guys, the whole purpose for this podcast is to bring everyday business owners like yourselves content that they can relate to and give them ideas that they can start implementing in their business right now. And that means bringing guests on the show, hearing their stories and hearing advice that they have to give out to the world. Okay. Jen owns an interior painting and renovation company, and she's absolutely killing the game right now. She's an everyday business owner like you, like me, like Dan, and she's in the thick of it right now. And she's experienced some crazy, awesome growth over the last 2 or 3 years. So we're really, really excited to have her on this show. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Jen, do you have a good Easter? Was the weekend good?
I did. I had my nephew. He's a year old. He stayed the night with us on Friday, and we had him Saturday. And I think that was really the highlight for me. My daughter's grown. She's going to be 21. So to have a little one around for the holiday, and we did the Easter egg hunt and all that good stuff. It was good.
Enough to live vicariously.
Yes. And then you can give him back.
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like a good time. Good time. And then we're back to it like Monday. You know, we have all the family time, and then it's like Monday comes and we're like, oh man. But another opportunity for business owners to grow their business. And how was the Monday? How was getting back to it?
Oh, it was good. We have a couple projects going, and so it's always crazy trying to juggle everything. But we weren't starting a project. We were just going back to projects that have already been ongoing. So nothing too crazy.
That's good. Dan, how was your Easter and stuff?
Good. Pretty typical family on Sunday. And then, man, I tell you what, I struggled on Monday. Not sure if it was just the holiday or if it was just the type of season that the business is going through right now, but it did feel like I had a little bit of not the Sunday scaries, but the Monday freezes for sure.
I was with you, man. I was like yesterday, we had, popping around on Sunday to different family members' houses, and Anderson decided she didn't want to sleep on Sunday night. We have a 7-month-old, and so yesterday was tough. I had like a headache all day. I was dragging, but
glad I wasn't the only one.
No. So, Jen, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
All right. Like you said, I own a small home improvement business located here in Baltimore, Maryland. I started the business in January of 2018 officially. And prior to that, I've been in the industry for about 17 years. And I've done everything. I've done the labor, and I mean like crappy labor. In the very beginning, I was literally just a laborer, or I helped with post-construction cleanup. And then, along my journey, I got to go back to school and study business, and worked as a projects manager, worked as sales, estimating, a little bit of all of it. And it kind of led me to being able to break off and do my own thing, because I kind of had worn all the hats previously.
Yeah, it seems like you kind of went through all of it. You kind of got to learn all the different pieces before you actually got to launch your own business. And after hearing your story, Jen and I connected last week. I got to hear her story. I'd love for you to go through a little bit in the beginning. I know, you started off as a laborer. You went through years of that. But I would love to hear about that journey that you went on, and kind of what led to today, from start to finish.
Sure. So, I didn't wake up one day and say, I really want to be a laborer. I was a single mom, and, I worked as a receptionist, and I was making like minimum wage or just at that. I think back then I was salary of like $25,000 a year. You know, and I had daycare and I had all these things, and there was no way that I was ever going to be able to grow, you know, making that. And there was a contractor. I worked in an accounting firm. I don't know if I said that. And one of the people that worked there, came through us for his account, was a contractor. And he had asked me, you know, if I ever was interested in doing any kind of like weekend work for him to make extra money. And, you know, I had no idea what that would be, but I said yes, because I needed to just do what I needed to do for me and my kids. So, I said, I started out doing just like post-construction cleanup, which is a little more gnarly than, you know, regular house cleaning. You know, it's dirty, it's nasty. 5-gallon buckets with, you don't know what is inside. You know, it was a little gross, but I did it. And luckily for me, one day, one of the painters did not show, and he was running behind on a project. And we were kind of overlapping. Usually I came in after the trades were finished. I was the last person, but we were overlapping. And one of the other last of the trades that are usually in on a project like that would be painting. So, you know, he put a paintbrush in my hand. He asked me to help, and I did. And I actually really liked it. It was fun. I felt like it was almost like a form of meditation in a way. I just put on some music and paint, and I really enjoyed it. So I went from doing any kind of cleanup to just weekends, and he offered me a full-time job, and it was definitely better pay than what I was making there at the accounting firm. So, you know, I went and I worked with him, and and then we did a project. It was a commercial job, working with as a subcontractor for Baltimore County Public Schools. And one of the head guys there had seen me and just kind of let me know, you know, hey, we're actually hiring for painters for the school system. And, you know, we would pay for school, and it's great benefits. And, you know, everything was just like a stepping stone. You know what I mean? It just kind of like all unfolded. Yeah. So I went and I worked for them, and they in fact did pay for me to go back to school. And, you know, then another opportunity came about. You know, somebody had recommended me to a friend who needed like a project manager for like smaller projects, anything under 10,000. And I went over with them and got that job. And then, you know, after that, got into sales. My job kind of like just dissolved, and they brought somebody in who could do the labor and run projects and get more bang for their buck. Mm-hmm. So that was like a time where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. I've lost this job. You know, they gave me the office with the window. I thought I had arrived, and then they took it all away from me. You know, and it's just so funny to like look back at like every time something happens, and then there's what you think is a failure, you're actually just learning, you know, and you're just picking up skills from step you're taking. So then I got a job as sales. It was full-time sales, and I hated it, to be honest with you. I cannot stand
typical business owner.
Sales is not, you know, if I'm really believe in it or really understand from start to finish the full process, because I'm not good at bullshitting. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. So
you're going to say whatever.
Okay. So, you know, I did my best. I did hit like my sales quotas, but I just was not feeling it. And, you know, then I got another job doing estimates, and eventually a job doing contract writing and reading. And that job was the last job that I had before I started working for myself. You know, I lived my life in a cubicle. I needed permission to use the bathroom. I needed permission to get coffee. I felt very stuck in this cubicle, but I made good money. and I had good benefits. And I just felt like, I think a lot of people feel like this is safe, this is secure. You know, I know what I'm making every month or week or however you're getting paid. You know, I can give my my daughter benefits. Like, this is just what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Just can't wait till Friday, you know, like living for Friday. And I got bored, you know, so I got this idea to start like a small business out of my house. And it's like thing. I don't know really, besides the fact that I just enjoy spray tans myself. I just decided to like open this small spray tanning business. And, you know, it started out friends and family, and then it just grew, and I got the website. And before I knew it, like, it was like a pretty, I mean, it was a great secondary income, but it was definitely not enough to like live off of.
Right.
And the company that I was working for, they found out, you know, about this business. You know, I talked to them about it. Even some of the women who worked there would come to me nights and weekends for a spray tan. So it's not like I was doing it in secret. But one Friday, you know, I got called into the office, and I sit down, and it was the same people that interviewed me. Like, the whole panel is there with their notebooks and pens, and basically said, you know, Jen, we do not feel that your heart is any longer in your position, and we've decided to let you go. So I think that they were not happy that I was investing myself in a business, you know. And I remember how devastated I was, but that was actually the beginning of JSW.
That's it. I mean, so, I mean, from starting off as a laborer, like, you just acquired so many skills, literally every skill that you probably need in JSW. Sales, contracts, estimates. You were a laborer. So like, you understood, like you before even launching, you understood every single piece of the business essentially.
Yeah. And not to say that, you know, I know it all, because I still very much am learning every day. I'm learning. And I love to surround myself with other more successful than me business owners, because I can learn from them. I can say, hey, how do I navigate this? Or what did you do? You know, I love that. My friends who are business owners, that probably, like, I have one friend who owns a roofing company, and I swear, if we ever go out to dinner, I always, and I shouldn't, because we need to get away from talking about work. You know, sometimes we just need to like relax, but I just am like a sponge, and I love to like ask questions and get feedback, you know. I feel like that's really important too, to always remain teachable and open-minded, and not to think like you know it all, you know, because I don't think any of us know it all.
No.
Right. And it seemed like you were never afraid of a new opportunity. Whenever you were transitioning from like one job to another, to kind of use that vehicle there, what was your mindset / like thought process into changing it? Was it just like doing it out of necessity, or what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, you know, like I said, my daughter is 20 now. So, you know, since I've been doing this, there's always been like this little person who needed me to succeed just as much as I needed to succeed. So maybe failure was was propelling me, you know, to succeed. I still deal with that to this day. Like, there is this fear that's always like hanging over my head of failure. But yeah, I mean, I guess I just took you know, every time I would interview for a position, I tried to be as honest with these people as possible. Like, this is what I know. This is what I've done. This is where I come from. I didn't try to like overinflate my resume or something, you know? And I was just like, kind of put myself out there, like, you know, I'm just here to learn and you know, give my 100%. And, but yeah, like, basically I think it was that driving force, which could be it positive or negative, of like fear of failure, and like, what do I need to do to like be successful in this position that I'm in right now?
Love it.
Absolutely. And Dan, I don't know if you were going to ask a question, but
I was just going to say, and you're an excellent role model. So that, you're doing the action. It's really cool to see.
Yeah. And I think people look at the path, right, and they think it's just this straight incline to, Jen has what I would consider a successful business right now. And, she's growing, and it seems like she's kind of taken that. And Jen, we'll get to kind of where you're at now. I know since you launched JSW has been interesting with COVID, but you've seen a lot of growth there too. But it seems like how you lived and how you tackled the situations and circumstances that were dealt your way from your very beginning, you're taking that and applying those same things to your business. And one thing I wanted to kind of ask you was, when you lost your job, what were the feelings in that moment?
So you guys aren't from around here, but I worked in an area over the Key Bridge. Okay, so it was about a 30-minute drive back to where I live. And I remember the whole drive and going over the Key Bridge, which is like this really steep, like you can't see past the horizon when you're riding up and over it. I was crying so hard. I felt like such a failure. I felt like, beating myself up. I should have never started this little business because, that's not enough to pay the bills. It was just, it was more of a passion, and, just beating myself up, and shoulda, coulda, woulda. And, I just cried. And I remember still to this day, when I walked into the house, like literally walked through the door, like this calm came over me, and something just spoke to me that like I was going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like no matter what, it was going to be okay. And the one thing that I had that a lot of women don't have in their back pocket was I had this trade that I could fall back on. And I feel like nowadays, like we're all taught, like go to college, go to college, go to college. And that is wonderful and great to have a degree. But if you have a trade to fall back on, you'll always be set. I really believe that. I feel like our youth should be taught more about trades. So I was not out of work for long. I just called. I still knew people in the industry. I still networked with people. I have friends who are still in the industry, and I just reached out and said, hey, this happened and I need to get to work. And, I worked for a few people here and there as needed. And I knew my worth. I know how good I am. I know what my worth is, and I wasn't being paid my worth. It was enough, it was enough to get me by for a couple of weeks. But I said, if I'm going to be picking up a paintbrush again, I'm not doing it for anybody else. Like this time I'm doing it for me. And I started out in like a pickup truck, the truck we already had, just threw like a bunch of like tools and stuff in the back, and just started out reaching out to friends, family. Hey, I'm doing this. Do you need anything done? Whatever. And it just kind of grew. And once I was like on a roll, I was like, this is totally not planned. This is not the direction that I was expecting my life to go. But once again, like, let me just do this, and I started to study for the Maryland Home Improvement Commission, the test, the MHIC. And I got my license, and, I just took off from there. But yeah, when I lost that job, I didn't realize that losing that was like opening the doors and really helping me to a place that like I never thought I would be in my entire life. But in the moment, it felt like the end of the world.
There's that I think we're that are huge in this journey, right? Because we typically start off rough. Like it's tough. Typically something for most people, they go through a tough period in the first couple of years of them owning a business or launching a business. One thing you said was, I knew my self-worth. Like I knew what I could bring to the table. And while I'm sure there was a moment of that wavering, like you stayed true to that. You said, no, this is what I am. This is, I know I can bring this. I know I can do this. I think that's really, really important. A really, really important trait to have. And it seemed like that was probably cultivated in the previous jobs that you had, trying different things and proving to yourself over and over again that, hey, I may not know it right now, but I'm pretty darn good at figuring things out. That was one thing that I really picked up. And then the second is, you said you started to reach out to friends, family. How uncomfortable was that? Like, because you're pretty much asking them for to become a client, right? And obviously you're newer at this. They probably know that you've done painting and all this other stuff in the past, but how hard was that how uncomfortable was it to text those people, call those people and say, hey, do you have anything that needs to be done?
Well, I mean, really, there was no shame in my game. I had no issue with doing that. I had already been doing that with the spray tanning. You know what I mean? I've already, I've already started with that little business, and it was very niche and more seasonal. Yeah. But, I had a website and I would just reach out and, people who've come into me, I would reach back out like, hey, miss you, come back, see us soon. Things like, I was already used to like networking and reaching out to like generate like repeat customers. So just to put it out there, people along the way, even though I had been out of the field for some time, they would reach out to me like, hey, Jen, I have this project I need to do. Do you have time? Would you be interested? As like a side job. And I got to a point where like, I was like, I have no interest in doing that anymore. But like, thanks for asking, like I really thought I had arrived and like, I was never picking up a paintbrush again, unless it was from my house. But so people still knew of me and like that I could do those things. So when I put it out there, it just, definitely that it is like that entrepreneur in me. And I, and looking back, like you said, and seeing like each time, that it did work out. And every time I took like a step out on faith, like it worked out. But also like, I have, trust in like a higher power as well. Weird, on this platform, but like, I just knew that like things are always going to work out. You know what I mean? Like, as long as like, I just put one foot in front of the other and like do my absolute best, that like, it's gonna work out. And it has,
Absolutely.
I think so many people get stuck at the point, like when you lost your job and they're, I would say 90% of the people I talk to, at least, they kind of cling on to that, like, back, like right before the back's against the wall moment, because they don't want to feel it. And I don't know how we teach that. Maybe it's in high school or something. But knowing your self-worth is what gets you to that point. It's like, hey, even though my back's against the wall, like I'm going to get something that I know I'm worth, and I'm going to go out there and get paid what I need to get paid. When the other majority is like, I'm going to cling on to this job, or I'll take a demotion, or I'll go out there and get something that's very similar or less of what I'm worth. And they'll just hang on to it for years. And I'm not sure how we get past that, but I think that's a huge point right there.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a family of people who, like, a lot of my family, my father, they all worked for the state or some form of government. And, my dad went to college and he got his degree and he was in his field for a very long time and he retired, and they had good benefits, and your raises were based on a step. You knew next year I'll make this and next year I'll make that. Very monotonous, and it's 9 to 5 or whatever, and like but you know what you're going to make and you can budget, Jen, and you have benefits, you know? And when you tell somebody that you want to be a business owner and you want to go work for yourself, they want to talk you, tell you that you're crazy. And there's so, you know, there's no guarantees. And, you know, in Maryland, this is an at-will state. There is no guarantee anywhere. I just told you that I went from job to job. So it doesn't matter whether it's, you know, you can get fired or let go or whatever, you know? So there's a gamble in any position that you take. And I feel like we spend so much of our time working that we need to be happy with what we're doing, you know? And of course, it does take a lot, though, to be successful, to be a business owner. You're not going to work just 9 to 5. You're working a lot, weekends, evenings. So there is the pros and the cons, but really it's afforded me to have so much more freedom. And I feel, you know, I just couldn't, I mean, if my business failed, if I had to, I would definitely go back to working for someone else, but I just couldn't imagine it. Like, I love working for myself.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go back to you reaching out to some friends and family. How many times did you hear no? Did you hear more no's than yeses typically?
You know, it was more so like, oh, this person is just starting out. You know what I mean? So we could probably get her for cheap. You know what I mean? Like, I need this thing done. She is small. It's her and maybe a helper, you know, like it's going to be a lot less with her than like with the large business. And I need this thing done. So, you know, that's working on my side. And, you know, now I am up against those types of companies myself where I'm larger. I have more overhead, you know what I mean? And I'm bidding against guys that it's just him and his pickup truck. You know what I mean? So it kind of helps. And, was I making millions or something in the beginning? No, but you know, there was always enough from week to week that was provided for me to make my goals. And I was just setting small goals. And if I achieved that, then, you know, I would always make sure that I celebrated it. Like every single sale I celebrated, no matter how big or how small. And it was always enough, you know, and then it got to the point where it was more than I needed. I was exceeding those goals.
So take us on the journey. Okay. So you launched, you're starting to get some sales, right? Was that in 2019, 2018, somewhere in there?
18. Mm-hmm.
18. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then boom, we have this pandemic pop up in 2020. So take us from your launch to where you're at today. I'd love to hear. I think everyone wants to know kind of that climb.
Sure. So, the first thing I did to let everyone know is I created like a Facebook business page and an Instagram business page. And I just like really sold myself. Lots of pictures, lots of videos of what I was doing, you know, and just constantly like interacting. And just constantly, I'm sure people were sick of it, but it's like, Jen Weller invited you to like her page. Jen Weller, you know, just like my page, follow me, see me, look what I'm doing, you know? And then the networking, you know, like I would sit down and I would like blast like realtors, like anyone that I could think of that would have some kind of an interest or a need in working with me. Just a lot of networking. And like I said, at first I was in the field, you know, for the first couple of years, I was in the field. It was me and one guy, then me and two guys, then me and three guys, but I was always there and I did not foresee myself getting out of the field. So that was a little crazy, you know. I still had that tanning business going on that I was managing at night. You know, I started that at like 5 p.m. And then from like 5 to 9, you know, painting started at 7 a.m. and I would do that like 7 until 4. So I had like a little time, you know, to like transition out of my painting clothes to like my it was like wearing different capes. And then weekends, running estimates and and all of that. So my life was very full. It was crazy. It was a lot of grinding. Luckily, my daughter was older, so I didn't feel like I was neglecting her life, where she was a teenager and she wanted to play and be with her friends, and I was still able to like attend somehow, like her softball games stuff. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I didn't see myself out of the field, because I really my business model really needed me to be the face of my company. So I wanted to be who was meeting with the customers when they called for an estimate. And I wanted to be in the field so that the customer saw me. I sold you this estimate. I made these promises to you. And now I want to be here face to face with you and make sure that all these promises are fulfilled. It was like really important to me, customer service, and to make sure that the customer was satisfied, because that was what was going to create the next job. It was word of mouth. I tried so many different types of marketing. For me, number one is, customer satisfaction and customer referrals. So, I just stayed in the field and I just kind of was wearing myself down. But I felt like that's where I needed to be. But like you said, in 2020, when the world shut down, it was scary and I didn't know what was going to happen. It was before, that they deemed like that we were an essential business. So we were allowed to continue working. But before all of that got worked out, and it was the state of emergency and mask up and 6 feet apart and stay in your house. And, you're driving down a street and like on the billboards, it's like house, hide. I'm like, I am going to fail. That failure thing came up again. And this is one of those times where like the fear of failure is what propelled me to do something different. So it was like, I need to focus more on getting myself out there. I need to be more available during the week for customers to meet with me. And people are now working from home. They're not going to work. So they are like, can you come at Tuesday at 9 a.m. rather than, an evening or a weekend. So that's when I left the field. I finally left the field. I trusted in my guys to do the right thing and to do what I asked of them and to fulfill these promises that I'm making to the customer when I'm selling them the job on the initial walkthrough. And I got out there and I was able to really focus on growing the business in other ways.
So how hard was that leaving the field? Because obviously it's like, hey, this is my product. I can ensure quality. How was that leap? Were you, I know you said you trusted your guys, but that takes a lot. It's like trusting someone else with your kid, it takes a lot to get to that point. Would you be where you're at today without doing that?
No. I don't think so. Because having to be in the field every day for 8 hours, it just limits you so much to what you can be doing to grow the business. You're only going to be able to do so much, and I was at a place where it was, we were at a place where we were doing like one project a week. That's all I could do was just one project a week. Yeah. Now I'm at a place where I can do 3, 4 X in a week. You know what I mean? But I could have never done that. I could have never grown to where I am now if I would have just stayed in the field based on fear that I couldn't trust these people that work for me to do the job correct. And so, once again, like I said, that fear is what propelled me into like doing something different. And has everything been perfect since I left the field? No. Not even that things will be perfect when I am in the field. I'm not God. I can't control everything, but it's just like the illusion of control. You know what I mean? That's what it was. Like being in the field is like this an illusion of controlling everything. And so leaving the field, I had to allow people to make mistakes. And then I was learning again, even more like how to better manage my crew, And that is one of the biggest struggles for me, is managing people. People are hard to deal with. That is like,
yes, they are.
That's one of the hardest things for me, is like herding cats. It's very hard. And, you know, also not reacting with emotion. You know, I'm a very emotionally reactive person, especially like my business. It's a personal thing. I've worked so hard for this. So like you said, it is almost like your child. And so when you see people maybe not taking it as serious or cutting corners or something, you know what I mean? Like, I just have to be able to wear lots of hats. And that's where I'm at today, is that I'm out and I'm dealing with the customer, and I'm doing sales. And then I'm also stopping in on all of my jobs and, you know, doing quality control and going and picking up materials. And, you know, it's all of the things, being inside, writing up the contracts, dealing with the invoices, job tracking, the accounting side of things. It's a lot, but so it's necessary.
So your role, your everyday tasks, how you looked at your business had to evolve for your business to evolve, right? Because if you would have stayed where you were, you would be where you were at, you know? So, you know, kudos to you for taking that on, for evolving as a person. I think that's really, really important. I mean, that's an evolution of you becoming a leader, having to manage people, not easy. And it's easier on the other side of saying, you know, I'm not going to manage people. I'll just stay where I'm at, you know, that complacency. So I think you're a great example, great role model for anyone that's like, your next step is to hire someone, but you're scared to, because it's going to be changing what you're doing. And now you have to let your quality, let your baby, you know, be managed by somebody else. And that's tough. So definitely kudos to you, Jen, for being an example.
And you can't clone yourself.
No.
Always run into that issue.
Right.
Yeah.
One day, maybe. No. Jen, what was your launching point where you felt like you took off? And what was the thing that you think caused that launching point? Where you feel like, man, this has some momentum, like we're going.
Yeah, I think it was like the very beginning, you know, like I said, where it was just like friends and family. And then it shifted to actual, you know, I was like reaching people through Facebook or whatever other means I was trying out at the time for marketing. And I'm getting these calls for requests for different projects, you know, and before I knew it, it was like, you know, I'm looking at 10, 15, 20 jobs a week, you know, for requests. And of course, you're not looking at 20 jobs doesn't equal 20, but just like, well, look at, you know, how much I have sent out in estimates this week, you know, and oh, wow, look how much I've sold, you know, and like seeing those types of things. I think that was the first time I was like, wow, this isn't just like a little side job or side hustle. Like this is really going somewhere, you know? And then I guess the next thing was when I got my MHIC. I felt really proud of that. It was something that, you know, I had to like study for and work for and sit for that test. And I passed it, you know, the first time. And I hear a lot of people who say like they, you know, it took them several tries to pass. So I was like really proud of getting that license. And then it's just like what we just discussed is when I finally left the field, you know, and I was able to like step away. And it was really weird. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. So my management philosophy for a long time was this like, we all have a say. You know what I mean? I'm not the boss. We're just all a team.
Right.
Team effort, you know?
Utopia. Right.
You know, and it's a great concept, but it doesn't work for me because then I become everyone's friend. And then when it's time for me to like say like something direct, like this has to happen, it is like, oh, well, you're my buddy. You know, I'm going to do this when I feel like it type of thing. So when I left the field, it felt like I was abandoning these guys. Like now all of a sudden I feel like all of a sudden, like I'm above you. I'm no longer the labor. Now I'm out here in my uniform doing the sales, which was so ridiculous because I don't know where this mentality was coming from, that I was like doing them a disservice when really I'm just out here trying to grow my business. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not your buddy. You know, I need to take the emotion out of it. You know, it does feel good to know that I'm providing salaries for people to provide for their families. And I know that I treat my employees well and I pay them well. I'm very fair. But at the end of the day, this is a business, you know, and I don't know where that mentality came from, that I thought that I was doing something wrong by walking out of the field full time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like that hit me. I was just like, there's so many things in the leadership style. I think, and I kind of did a similar, just taking a lot of jobs that eventually led to business ownership. But like the only thing I wasn't like properly trained on was managing people. And there's really probably no way you can properly be trained on managing people because everyone's different and every situation's different. So, you know, I found myself in the first 2 years having to go through and practice hard conversations because I set expectations wrong with my team, where I'm like, okay, now I have to talk to them directly. And ultimately led to actually a partner leaving. Like, so like, you know, if you can learn from what Jen just said, as far as like being able to not necessarily look at them as a friend, but look at them as a coworker / you know, employee, because then you have to grow your business, because otherwise you're going to get wrapped up in this like friend thing. Yeah. And it ultimately will hold you back for probably a couple of years. You won't even feel if you start with that mentality.
Right. And, you know, if somebody said to me, you know, they're not your friend, you know, they're not coming to work to hang out with you, Jen. They're here for a paycheck. And if the paycheck wasn't there on Friday, right, do you think they'd show up the next Monday to be your friend? You know what I mean? Like, had to like, oh yeah, you know, they're not my friends, you know?
It's kind of depressing at that point.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like, I mean, every day still, like I have to shift or change my perspective, or like I said, talk to someone and bounce something off of them so that I can see it from a different way. Or, you know, there's so many pieces to be successful.
So Jen, what's your biggest challenge this season? Where you're at? I want to hear what your biggest challenge is and what you think your next steps are.
Yeah. So, a really good friend of mine, he passed away unexpectedly a year ago this Mother's Day. So like almost coming up. And he was amazing. He was one of those guys that I looked up to. He was a little further ahead of me. You know, he had grown his business. He had a really amazing clientele. He was in a really nice neighborhood, like one of those neighborhoods you really just want to kind of get in and stay in. And, you know, he passed away, and his main thing was like kitchen and baths, tile, that type of stuff. So his crew, who was amazing at what they do, they were suddenly out of work. We didn't know what was going to happen with that business, if mom or dad or sister or brother were going to take over, you know, but these guys needed to get to work. And I thought about it, and, you know, I felt like this friend of mine, he would totally be okay with me doing this. And I just took that as another opportunity, and I just started to like look into selling tile, you know, under my MHIC. And this crew came along and we started working together, and that again, like grew me in another direction. So now we're doing, you know, a lot of like bathroom and kitchen remodeling, flooring and just tile. And so again, like where I'm at is I'm still focused on my bread and butter, which is, interior, exterior painting. But now I'm also growing and the other direction, like in expanding like interior remodeling. And I wear a lot of hats, I'm focused now on trying to keep 3 crews busy full time, making enough, of course, to cover my salary for the business to make money. And then, the phone is constantly ringing for requests for quotes. And, then customers are calling me with projects that are ongoing, or I need to order material. Just the point is that I can't be everywhere at once. So I'm doing a lot more than I ever was just going and working in the field. Sometimes like when I stop in and meet the guys on the job and they're just listening to music and painting, and I'm like, God, I miss this. Like that was so nice, and they're complaining, about whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have no idea. But, yeah, so that's the hardest thing for me right now. Like, it's the growing pains of like, I don't feel, and again, this is probably a fear, that I don't feel that I have gotten to a place where I can bring in maybe like an admin full time and pay them like a nice, salary, and take that stuff off of my plate. And then I'd have to also sit down. I have to train. Like right now, most of this stuff is in my head. Everything that I do is up here. There's no like plan and procedure in place where someone could just sit down in my chair and say, here you go, take over. It's a lot. So
yeah.
I have to like put all the plans and procedures together and, it's a lot. Yep. So again, I'm in that kind of probably, I don't know what the word would be. I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's complacent. I don't know what it is, but it's like, rather than doing something different and trying to bring in more help, I'm still like in this in-between place. Like, I'm trying to just like manage all of it. So that's like my biggest challenge right now.
Yeah.
That, and of course, like I said, managing people. I'm starting to have to really buckle down and be not so nice. Not that I need to be nasty or, I don't, I've had
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be like that. Yep. Oh God, here she comes. Hurry up, get to work. Like, I don't want it to be that
Jen.
way. Here she just pulled up, get back to work. I don't want it to be that way, but I also just need to be respected and for people to not question like, well, why did you hire that guy? Or why you're doing this? Or why, like, I don't remember ever asking my boss, like, why are you doing, like, that's none of my business. That's like, but I created this environment where I'm like, oh, we're all a team. We're buddies. We're friends. Like, we all have. So that is like also where I'm like, okay, I need to wind it down. This needs to be more of a business atmosphere. If I say this, there's a reason for it. Just don't, unless I'm asking you to dangle off of a roof without a harness or something, like, please just like trust that I am doing what's best for the company. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason for this and I don't feel like I need to explain it. So those are my 2 struggles is like managing. So I have this like fantasy where I have like a project manager to deal with my crews, an admin to help me deal with that stuff. That's like that's my fantasy right now.
Well, I feel like that's not too far down the line here.
I was just about to say the same thing. It's close.
Yeah.
It's close. Questions for Jen on your side.
Man, there were so many things like that'll be taken from this.
Yes.
And so many things I'm just like, yes. Oh man, I remember like some of those things that you kind of black out as a business owner in the beginning. You were bringing back those memories of back against the wall, managing people, false expectations, being a friend. So yeah, there's just so many. I don't necessarily have any more questions. I think we got most of them. Do appreciate story. I think when are we going to have, Jen, when are you going to rate HGTV?
That's another, like, that's like down the road fantasy, is that I really have a huge interest right now into interior design. So, I've kind of played around with like looking into it and getting some certifications. But until I get that project manager and admin to kind of help take over, I don't think I can put any more on my plate. But who knows, maybe one day.
I love it. I'll watch it.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I want to leave our listeners with 3, maybe 4 things that I know I pulled out of Jen's story, and some things that I think that she had a bunch of gold nuggets in there, guys. You guys need to go listen to this a couple of times, because I think anything I'm going to say here, she probably said it in a different way and probably a more effective way too. But number 1, when negatives come, when the bad circumstances and what seems like a bad situation comes, we have to look for the opportunity. And I think Jen's a great example of, there is always an opportunity inside of what might seem like a bad circumstance, right? There's always something that we could look at, and maybe in a different way, and take hold of the opportunity that's at hand, right? Every step of her way, she responded to a negative moment with finding the opportunity, right? And it was that fear of failure, like she didn't want to fail. And that's what kept her going on, looking for. And while there's hard things that happen, there's hard things that happened in her journey, right? She had a little one to take care of early on, and had to worry about that, so she was living, the life that we all live. And there's problems that happen, there's things that come up, but she always responded with, what's the opportunity? Number 2, and this is something that we preach in our Limitless Business Owners group, is she had a whatever it takes mentality. So 110% committed that she could figure it out. She was always committed to what she was in, and she was always doing it the best that she was able to do. And she was always probably willing to do a little bit more, learn new things, which led to her business today. Number 3, while it's important to be proactive and prepare, a lot of this journey is uncontrollable, right? We can't control what other people do. Sometimes we can't control. Look at COVID. There's a lot that we can't control, which means we're going to have a reaction. There's going to be reactions, and that's something that we can control, right? We can always control our reaction to a circumstance, and it kind of goes back to finding the opportunity. But how we respond, how we react, that matters, right? And that determines, are we going to see results on the other side, or are we not going to see results, right? And then the last thing is, the perseverance, the resiliency. Those are only developed by going through hard things. Those are not developed through easy things. So, while it's hard to seek out hard things, when hard things come, be grateful that you're having opportunity to grow through it, right? And I think, Jen, looking back, you could probably say like, hey, I'm grateful for my journey. The bad things that happened, it led me here, right?
Definitely.
So Dan, you want to end this with the question we ask everyone? Ending the podcast.
Yeah. First and foremost, I do want to point out that Jen never gave an excuse of having a little one. So that was, I'm sure it was tough, but she never said it was like anything that was as an obstacle. So all those people that come to me and ask and say, hey, I have a family, like, and Andrew's doing it, like people are doing it. And it's just one of those points I want people to kind of hit home there. But Jen, the last question is what we're going to be asking everyone on these interviews is, what's one thing that you can tell future business owners, current business owners, what to do to become limitless?
Like I said, I think that the key things are, don't let your fear of failure like back you into a corner, to not take, that you need to get to the next, whatever stepping stone is in front of you. Networking is so important, I think, is networking, and doing everything, like giving 100%, like making sure the project is 100, that the customer that you're dealing with is 100% satisfied before taking on to the next, because, your happy customer is what's going to, bring in, future work.
Perfect.
So good. Jen, I just want to thank you for taking an hour of your time out of your busy life and spending it with us. This is really something that I think is important. It's really important giving other business owners, especially those in the beginning, in the first couple of years, perspective on maybe the things that they're going through. And you never know. Hopefully we have some people that can help you out as well in your stage and give you some hope. Not that you need it, because you seem like a very forward-thinking person that's always ready for the next step. So thank you again for spending your morning with us. It was a great conversation that I think is going to help a lot of people. Hey, if you guys haven't rated and reviewed the show yet, go ahead and do that, right? On Apple, on Spotify, wherever else. Share it. Obviously, even this one, share, when it drops, share it. There's a lot of people that can find some hope out of Jen's journey. And the more that you share, it's how we grow. It's how we're able to reach more business owners, and it helps them overcome and become limitless. So the more you share, the more people you are helping. Okay. And if you want to hop into the business or the Limitless Business Owners Inner Circle, we have a free 7-day trial going on right now for you to hop in, test the waters a little bit, and get to know what happens inside that group. Dan, it's been real. Jen, it's great talking to you. We'll be talking soon.
It's been amazing. Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye, guys.